Satang Prasanga.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees, and welcome to today's session. How are you doing? I pray that all is well with you and your families at this time. So, we're moving on to the next sutra today, and it goes as follows. When we serve from our own strength, people get the impression they should be like us. When we serve from our own strength, we tend to stand in front of Krishna and block others' ability to see him. The acharyas tell us that the only reason to speak about bhakti is to inspire others to awaken their own intrinsic nature of loving Krishna. Otherwise, bhakti is a very secret thing. Krishna says in Gita, Sa eva mayate dhya yoga prokta puratanaha bhakto sime sakacheti rahasyam hiyataruttama. That it is a rihasya. Rahasya means secret. And only the bhakto sime sakacheti, only the devotee knows the secret. So we don't speak devotion to glorify our own situation or our own strengths and our own status in the devotional service. We speak devotion to inspire others to invoke their own devotion towards Krishna. If we're a leader, we see that people learn by imitating. So those who follow us and are trying to learn the process of Vaidhi Bhakti, they will imitate what we do and the way we do it. So imitation is good, but ultimately it's the consciousness that Krishna is after. So if imitation is done, but consciousness is not improved, then we have a situation which tends more towards karma yoga rather than bhakti yoga. We see the great acharyas, even the example of Srimati Radharani, she is always pushing forward other devotees to go closer to Krishna. She always puts herself right at the back in great humility. So why does this happen? Because the devotee is too new to connect the skill set or the activity or the art of dressing the deities or cooking or doing some management seva to Krishna. So the way it's connected to Krishna is by the consciousness. And that takes some maturity to develop. The tendency we find is that most of the time the devotees learn the skill set of Vaidhi Bhakti but get caught up in that and don't work towards changing and developing their consciousness. So inevitably it ends up as an advanced form of karma yoga rather than bhakti yoga. This is also why after many years as good managers, the devotee has not connected his skill as a manager to devotional service. He's only focused on his expertise as a manager and has not developed the devotional mood of succession, of teaching and sharing with others. And therefore, after a while, he doesn't want to give up his position. We see it's very hard for those devotees. As a temple president, I can tell you, it's very difficult. When I was serving in Midrand Temple, the prestige is very powerful. And people are looking up to you for leadership and guidance. So one can get infatuated with that, forgetting that he's the servant of the servant. Das anudas anudas. And his goal is not just an institutional service, but actually to get back to Godhead, a spiritual destination. So if you get caught up only institutionally, then we think I'm a temple president, I'm a bhakta leader, I'm a head pujari, I'm a commander. And then we get caught up in that service, we don't share it with others to train a succession, train others to come forward, and we don't grow ourselves. We tend to hold on to that. So it's like a definition of Nishkam Karma Yoga. So it starts off as Karma Yoga, you're connecting it spiritually. And Nishkam Karma Yoga is more like you're not attached to the fruits that you're offering to Krishna, which is fine, but now you're attached to the service. So indirectly, that service, which was meant to purify you, it becomes an upadhi, it becomes an impediment, an anartha, because you haven't connected it in devotion to Krishna. It's separate now. You're attached to the service, but you're not attached to Krishna. And even a service like a temple president or whichever kind of service one does can indirectly, in the long run, take one away from Krishna, because one never addresses oneself and one's relationship with Krishna in a deep way. One gets attached to the service and not attached to Krishna. The goal of bhakti is to attach to Krishna. Therefore, we see in the beginning of Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna gave so many examples, and Krishna was substantiating those reasons based on service, on dharma, on duty. So one can do one's service based on duty and be satisfied with that. But that doesn't give one bhakti, because one didn't make efforts to develop that relationship. So Krishna gave Arjuna all those kind of answers first. Arjuna, you have to do your dharma, you have to do your duty. You're a Kshatriya. All these kind of examples are good, and they are based on Nishkam Karma Yoga. But at the end, which one did Arjuna choose? Yata chese tata kuru. Krishna, I just want to do what you are saying. Why? Because for you. I'm just going to fight because for you. So all of those reasons became null and void, and bhakti became the main reason. We see in the Sutra today, it says, when we serve from our own strength, people get the impression that they should be like us. So it's nice to inspire people, but inspire people to become better than us. I remember Madhavananda Prabhu, the famous scholar within ISKCON, on Lord Jagannath and the pastimes of Jagannath. And so he was sharing once that he had a group of Gurukul kids that had come, and he was taking them on an excursion. And one little girl said, Prabhuji, when I grow up, I want to become just like you. And he stopped and he said, no, you don't become like me, you become better than me. So just see, he was inspiring her, and she was like taken aback, but she understood that this is a genuine leader, one who inspires one to become better. Because circumstances are going to change. What strategies works now as a manager is not going to be the same strategies that's going to work in the future. We have to change it. So if you don't inspire one with the foundational strategies of what's working now, then how do you expect the future generation to cope? And how do you expect the mission to go on? It goes on to say here, when we serve from our own strength, we tend to stand in front of Krishna and block others' ability to see him. I remember this famous pastime of Srila Prabhupada. I think it was in London, and I haven't been to the temple in London, But from where the Vyasa-san is, that it's opposite to the altar, I think. And this devotee stood up, or this person stood up and said, Swamiji, can you see Krishna? And he was like really standing between Prabhupada and the altar. And Prabhupada, in his wit, he just snapped back and said, no, because you standing in the way. So many times we come in the way between Krishna and the devotees. So that is because of our own insecurities. We have to admit that. Our own insecurities, that we're not doing enough, have not understood enough. Therefore we keep people where they are, so that they also don't grow. Because if they grow, they'll take my position. Then where do I go? I remember this little controversial point, but I think we can speak about it. In Vrindavan in the early years, on the altar, it was very difficult because I was a Westerner to come onto the altar. There was only like 2 Western devotees serving on the altar, and of course the head pujari is the third one. So out externally it looks like, oh, they're all pujaris and they're all serving. But internally, each altar has its own sections. So Gaur Nitai was only the disciples of Jayapataka Swami Maharaj. And Krishna Balaram was only the disciples of Bhakti Charu Swami Maharaj. And Radheshyam was only the disciples of Gopal Krishna Maharaj. And that's how it was. And it's a fact. So eventually the management started to see that this is causing a problem. That new people could not come in, or they only would help and those who were disciples of their own guru, so they would create systems and situations like that. And then eventually the management started by rotating the artis, because pujaris were becoming so infatuated with the service, they didn't want to give it to anybody. You know, those who are on Radheshyam were only Radheshyam. And we know this with devotees as well. Those who Radhe Radhe devotees, we call them. That, Prabhupada wouldn't chant Radhe Radhe. He chanted Hare Krishna. And he said, because Radhe Radhe means Krishna is not there, it's only Radharani. Do you want to see Radharani alone? No, we always want to see her with Krishna. So which is better? Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna means Radha and Krishna together. That's what we want to see. That is Jugala Kishore. That is what the devotee wants to see. So devotees were even, I remember pujaris at one time were so infatuated, they wouldn't even take the maha from Prabhupada's samadhi. They said, no, Radharani's plate. We want Radharani's plate. We don't want Prabhupada's plate. So this is where it was going. So can you see the delusion or the illusion that comes about? And it's not that they're not dedicated. They're very dedicated. But they're so attached to their service in terms of the position. And they get infatuated to that, forgetting the purpose why they're there. We forget the purpose of what we're supposed to be doing. So it can become very dangerous, and I think it's a very subtle point that we discussed today. It needs a lot of introspection and meditation, and to honestly strive towards pure devotion, Suddha Bhakti. That's what we want. We devoted, but it's not on the pure level. Pure level means ahoitiki apratyatha yayatma supasiddhati. No unmotivated, uninterrupted. If it's motivated and we are attached to the position or the service or the community or the position or the status, all these things can be upadhis and they can limit our development of bhakti. So I hope you enjoyed this serious class today. But I think it's needed for us to grow and understand how to empower others and how to, for us to also spiritually grow. So thank you very much. We'll see you tomorrow. Hare Krishna.